Hello and welcome back to Guild Wars 2. Here we are, ready to talk about the Flame and Frost series of content updates. I guess you could call it the Flame and Frost living story, doesn't really matter, but I want to just tell everyone what I thought about it because I didn't really get any videos up covering it. Sure, I spoke about it in Newsman's, I mentioned it in a vlog or two, I think it came up in one of my Q&As, but I didn't really spend very much time recording videos while doing the content. And there's a good reason for that. A really good reason. I'll tell you that in just a moment. I will just first put out a disclaimer saying I won't be talking about all the other goodies added. So things like the new guild missions, the PvP improvements and changes, the leaderboards, the gem store items, the weapon skins, which admittedly were rather cool. None of that. But my quick and dirty answer, the too long didn't read or too long didn't listen answer, for those that don't want to listen to the entire video that I'm about to record, is that I didn't enjoy it as much as I hoped I would. The whole living story idea is a great concept, but for Flame and Frost, the way they set it up just didn't work for me, and I suppose the story just didn't feel as epic as they made it out to be. It felt, in my opinion, too long and dragged out. I didn't need a month to run through Diesa Plateau or the Wayfarer Foothills to fix a couple of signposts and light a couple of campfires. I really didn't. That said, I did every single living story achievement, I played through all the content, I absorbed all the lore in one evening. I didn't touch it until the very last night it was active, and I just blazed through the lot of it, and that was it. That was that. I was done. Just one evening of playing. Crazy. Now, a lot of people are saying that the saving grace was the dungeon, and we're going to get to that. We're going to talk about the dungeon and everything they did right and wrong with the dungeon closer to the end of this video. I will also have some footage up, as I mentioned, but I really just think that they could have done a lot more with the Flame and Frost series because it had a lot going for it. It was kind of interesting. Anyway, let's start by talking about the achievements that they added, because if one talks about the achievements, they are obviously linked to the content that you get in to do. Most people would open their achievement panel, look at them and say, okay, this I need to do, that I need to do, and this I need to do, and then they'd go out and do it. So, Refugee Volunteer was the first one. In that, you pretty much just needed to run around, fix signs, res refugees, light campfires, and do these little menial tasks that didn't really feel like they meant too much. That was all the way at the start of the Flame and Frost series. After that, we got to find possessions with a Lost and Found achievement. We ran around finding these dirt and snow-covered objects, and then we had to take them back to Lion's Arch to give them to people who in turn told us how they lost them. I don't know how that really helped us get immersed or whatever, but hey, that was there. And then after that, we had the Gathering Storm where we needed to kill invaders. That was it. They started invading Diesa Plateau and Wayfarer Foothills through big portals that looked like Oblivion gates, and we just ran up in there, stopped the invasion, and 20 minutes later they started invading again. We had to kill 150 of them. That's I don't even know. Then there was the Secret Contact, which was don't even get me started on this one. This was a big scavenger hunt, exactly like the Halloween one. They give you an item, you got to go to a place, you use the item there, and that's that. Sure, it could have been kind of fun if you were like really immersed in the story, if you were really paying a lot of attention to what was being said to you when you used the little item, if you were paying a lot of attention to what was happening in these areas you had to scan, then it could have been a little bit exciting, but in my opinion, it just felt like another scavenger hunt. And ArenaNet keep falling into this trap of adding scavenger hunts. I think they even added another quest that is much like the scavenger hunts in the new Secret of South Sun content update. It's not exactly the same, and I think they did it a lot better in that, but they keep adding them. And honestly, I think they can do a lot better. So after you did all of those, and you did all of these in the span of like 3 months, okay, we really didn't need 3 months to do those few things. I did it in 3 hours. All of it. Sure, I used a guide from Delphi's site, but still. 3 hours. 3 months worth of content. After that, the kind of interesting stuff started, and these things you could actually do throughout it, but I went down the achievement list and started at the top, worked my way all the way through to the bottom, and that was the order I got everything done in. You could start the Bram and Rox missions all the way at the beginning. You could see them build up slowly over the months, but I actually started them, played all the way through, and finished them in a row. So when you start the Bram missions, he has a whole big thing about his village of Cragstead being attacked and he wants to save it, so you go with him there, you help him out. It was kind of interesting, but in my honest opinion, the Rox ones were much better because with Bram, what happened was you got to the village, so you did a few things before, you watched a few meetings between him and his mother and the leader of the Norn and all that, but when the actual meat of the Bram mission started, you got to Cragstead and you pretty much did the same thing 20 times. You fought the same 3 mobs 20 times in a row. At the end, you fought a boss and it was done. That was it. I know I'm sounding incredibly negative here, but it really wasn't that interesting. A lot of the game's normal personal story missions were much more interesting. Like much more interesting. Even some of the dynamic events in the game are much more interesting. But I did it. I played all the way through it alone, which was kind of difficult. I did struggle with some of the missions, and after that I started on Rox's missions. Now I'm not going to be talking too much about these missions because, as I said, I didn't really enjoy them very much and I didn't find them that interesting. The Rox missions, which I started up immediately after that, were, I suppose, a bit more fun in how they played, but they felt a lot more detached from the Flame and Frost living story than the Bram missions. They felt like they were kind of just added on as an afterthought. We were sent by Ritlock Brimstone to investigate and secure a hatchery where the Molten Alliance had been fiddling around and trying to take control of Devourers or something like that. It really didn't make much sense to me, and I realized that the people that paid much closer attention to the lore and the story and everything that was actually going on in Flame and Frost would know exactly what it all meant. But I personally was kind of lost there. Now I will say that the cutscenes and stuff that we saw, the interactions with the big characters in the game, all of that was kind of cool. But the sad thing is that after we finished with all the Flame and Frost stuff, Rox and Bram are just gone. I'm not sure if Bram can actually be found at Cragstead or you can find Rox somewhere in the Black Citadel now, but they put these 2 characters into the game that didn't really mean much or anything before Flame and Frost, and after it now, they just nothing. They're gonna fade from our memories, we're gonna put them from our mind and forget them forever. And I thought that the whole idea behind the living story was to do something that would have a long-lasting effect on the world, so I'm not really sure what their end game was with this, but in my opinion it didn't really work out in that way. Now, after I had done all of this, like the lot of it, there was just the dungeon left to do, and the dungeon was really good. I enjoyed it. I did it about 3 times, and I thought it's some of their best work to date. It wasn't too long. The story in the actual dungeon, where both Rox and Bram were present, was fun. It was really cool, and I'm sad that we only got to do it for 2 weeks, and then it's just suddenly gone forever. It would, in my opinion, be great if they could bring the dungeon itself back, maybe parts of it back as different fractals or something like that. Sure, it wouldn't really make much sense if you're doing little parts of it, tiny chunks of the dungeon, because then the entirety of the story would be, I suppose, lost on anyone doing it. But the dungeon itself just had a lot going for it. There were little secret areas that you could find. There were a lot of interesting new mechanics. The bosses were actually fun to fight. There was a little bit too much trash in the midsection of the dungeon, but it wasn't too much to make it, I don't know, any less enjoyable. I still had a great time playing through there. Sure, I played with a really good party. Everyone had amazing gear and knew what they were doing. So I suppose if I had gone with a group of people that were kind of new to the game or lower level, perhaps, I don't know, you could actually do this dungeon at level 1, which I guess would have been a bit messy. If I had gone with a group like that, it would have probably been far less enjoyable. But the dungeon itself was great. I thought it was the strongest point of the entire Flame and Frost series. That right there was the pinnacle, the climax, and I enjoyed it. And the sad thing is, it took them 3.5 to 4 months to build up to this climax. The only bad thing I've heard about the dungeon itself was that the drops were too rare. Some people were saying that they did it 100 or 150 times and they didn't see the drops they wanted. And I suppose that's just kind of cruel, especially considering that it's sort of a one-time only thing. If you wanted the mini pet or the backpack or whatever the other drops were from that dungeon, then you had to get it within these 2 weeks, else you'd never see it again. So that made a couple of people angry, but I personally really didn't care. There are so many amazingly cool items and mini pets in this game that just missing 1 or 2 isn't such a big deal to someone like me. But that's it. That's pretty much all I think about the dungeon. And after that, we were presented with one final reward. A bonfire. We played through 4 months worth of content for a bonfire in Hulbrook. I'm not even joking. That was it. That was the final reward. We got to party around a bonfire. I don't even know. Okay, sure, you could argue that we got some gloves along the way. There was a title. We could have got some amazing loot from the dungeon if we were lucky. But I just feel like the epilogue itself was kind of lost on me and a whole lot of other people. A bonfire. Anyway, I'm done. That's all I have to say about Flame and Frost. I realize I kind of skimmed over a lot of it and I didn't really go into too much detail where a lot of it was concerned, but it doesn't deserve a lot of detail because there was really not very much going on in it. I could spend a lot more time talking about the dungeon. Sure, that was great. There was a lot going on there, but the 3 months that came before that, no. No, if I can do all of that in 3 hours, then I honestly don't feel I need to spend a whole lot of time talking about it. But, that aside, I do think that ArenaNet have sort of caught their hint. They know what they should and shouldn't be doing now, and that shows with the Secret of South Sun, and I'm hoping it's going to show even more with the rest of the South Sun content, which is called The Last Stand at South Sun. I think that's coming all the way at the end of the month. They seem to know what's up. They are condensing their living story a lot more, giving us more in less time, and I think that players are going to react well. South Sun Cove was a terrible area before they started reusing it now. It was kind of cool when the Karka event was going on, sure, and until now, no one went there. There was no reason to ever go there. Sure, you might need the jump-in puzzle achievement, maybe you needed to go and scout a bounty target there, but that was it. People didn't really want to spend time there, and I'm hoping that this is going to kind of revitalize the area a bit, because it has a lot of potential. It's a really interesting area, and now with all the new developments there, it's just become even more so. So now I will tell the lot of you that actually watched till the end of this video. I don't know how many will, because I don't really think that listening to someone talk about Flame and Frost after it's actually done is that interesting. But I will tell you that I'm going to try get more Guild Wars 2 content focused on these new content updates up on my channel over the next couple of weeks or month, because I do feel that now that they're condensing it so much and compressing it so much and making it this much more interesting, the videos that would come from it will also be more interesting in turn. So, I will be jumping in to the Secret of South Sun content within the next couple of days, and hopefully I'll be able to give you guys proper coverage, because I really think you deserve better coverage of the Flame and Frost series. I just really didn't have the heart for it. I wasn't that interested. I have plans to cover the new Secret of South Sun stuff a little differently. Now that I've got my new PC, I am obviously much more keen to play Guild Wars because it runs well, it records well, and it looks so much better. I'm also going to be uploading one of the Molten Weapon Facility runs that I did, but I am doing this one a little bit differently. I don't know how many people are going to like the way I'm doing it. It's risky. I am trying something new, and I'm just not sure it's going to be as well received as some of my other Guild Wars videos, but I do think it's something that'll help my channel grow a little bit in the long run. We'll see. So back to the Flame and Frost thing. Feel free to let me know what you guys thought about it, about the Prelude, about the Gathering Storm, the Raising, Retribution, or the Epilogue. The bonfire at the end, you can give me your thoughts on that. I'd be glad to hear them. Tell me what your favorite part of the lot of it was, tell me what your least favorite part was, and just tell me if you think that they've actually learned. Is the Secret of South Sun looking better to you? I mean, from the little bit that I've seen, And from the crazy rewards that they've already given us, I would say that it's going to be kind of popular amongst the masses. But again, we will see. That's going to be it for my thoughts on the Flame and Frost live-in story content updates. Check back here soon for more. Like the video and all that other good stuff. And most importantly, happy doing those live-in story achievements in Guild Wars 2. Happy that.